Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, first question. Hey Jason, if HIIT cardio after weight training impacts strength gains, then what about doing high intensity GP work like prowler and heavy farmer's carry? You know, this gets into a tough question. The thing to keep in mind though, because when I think of HIIT, I'm generally thinking you're talking about interval training on a bike or something. If we're talking about stuff like this has its own hypertrophic component. And if it makes you gain more muscle and you can recover from it, it's not as big of a deal. Now, that being said, if you are training in any given training session near your maximum recoverable volume, it could be a problem, couldn't it? Right? If you're approaching your maximum recoverable volume or you're reaching like your maximum effective volume, I'm going to say that you probably don't need to do that stuff immediately afterwards. You need to space it out. And even for people who do GPPs type stuff every day, someone like me, I do some of it every day. I space it out. A couple hours after my training, I've eaten a meal, I've rested. And then I do it on my off days. And I tend to do more of it on the off days, right? So look at it from that perspective. The question I would ask, if you're going to do it immediately after, unless it's just a very small amount to finish it up, it needs to be factored into your total workload for your training session. Okay? It needs to be factored into your total workload for your training session. If you know that you still had recoverable volumes left in your quads after a training session, and you do a few rounds of prowler pushes or sled drags, it's not really a big deal, is it? Right? It's not really a big deal because you're using up the last bit of resources you have. So that's the way that we need to look at stuff like this, because you need to factor in that GPP or metabolic conditioning or whatever term you tend to give it does train multiple things. It does have an enormous conditioning component. It is also a hypertrophy component. It does have volume that it adds to your training. It's not the same as true cardio. Not the same as true cardio. It's not endurance work. Right? It's not endurance work. And again, it is still hitting a lot of the same muscle attributes that we're getting from training. So in a way, it needs to be thought of as its own form of training. It needs to be thought of as its own form. And I do understand some people can't get to the gym every day. So let's say you're on a 4-day program in upper lower and you need to do GPP on those days. Well, fine, do it. But I would bias some of it towards what you need to get done. In other words, maybe some of the slightly upper body oriented stuff could be done on your squat and deadlift type days. Right? Maybe some of the lower body stuff could be done on the upper body type days. Or you could do the most of it at the end of the training phase. So let's say you train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You could stack more of it on the Tuesdays and the Fridays. Right? Probably be the direction to go, so it doesn't impact your other training maybe as much. You're going to have to play it by ear and build your conditioning up. But it is, you got to remember, it is different from doing cardio. But it also falls under your training volume. So you do have to assess that when looking at this stuff as well. Just different ways to think about it. Instead of going in if X, then Y. Well, that's not necessarily the case. That's not always a premise and conclusion that follows. All right, next question. Hey coach, I'm following your novice program, which one? And was wondering if I'm able to do calf and ab work along with 30 minutes of LISS cardio on in between days without negatively affecting my recovery. Well, I mean, if you need to do LISS because that's what you're doing, you need it for whatever health or weight loss or whatever, I suppose that's fine. But if we're talking about getting conditioned and strong, you don't need to be doing LISS cardio on your off days. You need to be doing metabolic conditioning work, right? Just like we talked about in the last one. Weighted carries, sleds, prowlers, barbell complexes, supersetting high volume body weight exercises, that sort of stuff, right? Metabolic conditioning or general physical preparedness. You need a resistance component. All right, that will help you get into shape. That will improve your work capacity. That will make you more athletic. It will improve the weight training if you need to do something. That's the direction I would push you. Abs, great. If you want to do abs every day, that's fine. Why would you train calves? Okay. Go back to the calf question we got earlier in the other session. I believe it was this session. Are you going to be a competitive bodybuilder? Why do you care? If you need to train your calves, you're already squatting 3 days a week on most of my novice programs. Well, include some plyometrics into your GPP work. Okay, some plyometrics, do some jumps. All right, there you go. There's your calf. But there's no reason, I literally see no benefit or any reason for a person to be training their calves. If you're doing all your conditioning work and your weight training and all of this stuff, your calves are going to get as big as they probably need to get. All right, if you're going to bodybuild, you need to learn to tolerate needles. Okay, and that's just a simple reality. You either have amazing calf genetics or you're going to have to inflate them. That's bodybuilding. Okay, you don't need to worry about training them. Don't waste a lot of time on that nonsense. It's nonsense. And if you think your calves need more work, you need to be looking at your training more. Weighted carries, plyometric work, squats, deadlifts, all those things will contribute. That will build your calves, build all the calf muscle you need. Be athletic. Do all this athletic stuff with your training. Your calves will get work. They will get trained through multiple performance elements, and they will hypertrophy. Don't go into the gym to do calf work in between on my novice program. Okay, if you want to do abs, that's fine. If you want to do GPP, that's fine. Skip the calves, brother. We don't need it. It's a complete waste of time, waste of resources, and it may even interfere with your squatting. All right, next question. And last question of the week. Hey, Jason, I pulled 540 conventional and squatted 400 at 165. I gained 10 pounds, so I'm 175 now, and I got stronger on my squat and bench, yet my deadlift has stalled. I added 20 pounds to my squat, so I have a 425 squat, yet my deadlift has remained the same. How come? Shouldn't deadlift go up together with a squat? How should I keep progressing on a deadlift if I can't do much deadlift volume? I can handle a lot more squat volume, but if I try to add deadlift volume, it wrecks my recovery. All right, brother, it sounds like you are built to deadlift, okay? Because your squat and your deadlift are tremendously far apart. And here's what I mean. Look at your body weight and look at the strength ratios on your body weight. In other words, you're strong. Like you're strong at squatting for your body weight. And you notice your squat and your bench are going up very, very well with the muscle growth, right? Well, that's normal. Your deadlift is abnormally strong relative to your squat. Well, what does that tell us? It tells us you're built to squat. You have leverages to squat. And gaining extra muscle, again, your quads and everything from squatting didn't seem to do anything for your deadlift. All right, that means that, one, you have long arms. Two, it means you probably need a lot stronger back and thoracic spine, hamstrings, things like that to get your deadlift up. Those are probably your weak links in it. So let's come over to the point with deadlift volume. That's right. You can't do deadlift volume with heavy weight. If you do deadlift volume, it has to be submaximal weight where you work speed and power. All right? You have to work speed and power. Now, I invariably run into this with clients. They want to start going heavier and heavier than I prescribe on their volume days. And, you know, when they do, they may fire me as a coach because their strength's going to stall and regress. Right? Their strength's going to stall and regress, and they'll blame me as a coach. But the reality is, it's because you don't pull heavy when you do high volume pulling. All right? It doesn't work. Doesn't work. You've got to pull lighter. You got to go lighter. You got to do it as speed work, technique work, maybe deficit work, even lighter. That's what you have to do. So you can do that as one option because it will destroy your recovery. Your other option is to do hypertrophy work for your weak links. All right, you can build a deadlift off of other exercises. Here's what I'm going to suggest. How strong is your upper back? How much rowing are you doing? What do your rows look like? What do your pull-ups look like? Are you doing good mornings? Are you doing glute ham raises? You need to come in and do these supplemental lifts for hypertrophy. All right, you're 165 pounds. You're not a big guy. Okay. 165 pounds. You need to go ahead and thicken those areas up too. You need to get those muscles thicker to get that deadlift up. They will also carry over to your squat. So they'll both go up as a result of it, but it's time for you to do supplemental lifts. You need to thicken those areas up and do hypertrophy work for them because you know you can't handle the high volumes of pulling. All right? There's your solution. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.